All right, bud. We're up to the 1970 Chevy El Camino. This is guide 26. There is 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. So 5 more story cars we get to roll through. And then I'll do one more guide video beyond that, showing some tips on restoration and my thoughts on where you should go from there. Um, but let's go ahead and take this order. I guess we forgot to read it the past few times, so let's read the story here first. Hey, I bought this pickup for work. I needed a packable, reliable car. I wanted the body to be in reasonable condition. The rest can be replaced. The specific car was mishandled. The suspension looks as if somebody treated curbs and rocks as minor obstacles. The rims and exhaust system have also seen better days. The rest also requires a look to see if any minor repairs are needed. I trust you know what you're doing. I prefer the parts be new so that it does not fail me at the most inopportune time. Please change the oil and there'll be other tasks. So this is pretty similar to previous um, guide videos that we have done. We'll pop her over to the car wash, give it a good once over, and we'll go ahead and clean up the interior, vacuum it out for the guy. Looks like this has got some oversized wheels on it. Car status. So we have 5 pages of broken parts. Change the oil, change brake fluid, coolant, and wheel align. Okay. I'm just going to go straight into the drain tool. Drain brake fluid. And let's just drain the coolant. Okay. How's the water pump look on this thing? It looks fine. So I'll go ahead and unmount and just replace the coolant. And we'll replace on the brake fluid. Coolant in. And then we'll pop in some brake fluid. Alright. And then we'll... old car does not have an onboard diagnostic computer. We can do a compression test, see if we had to pull this engine. The pattern may hold true. We've pulled like the last 3 or 4 engines. Yep, we're pulling an engine. Okay, so we got an engine pull. Electro digitals. Got a 19 there, so something's wrong in the digital system. The starter's bad. Okay. And treads. Check on the tires. They kind of look bald, just looking at them, but a lot of 70s, so they're probably fine. Okay. And tread, electron, pressure test. Well, not in the green, but probably one bad part. Fuel filter. I'm going fuel filter. Oh, everything's okay. Okay. All right, let's do the examine mode. And we'll just examine suspension system here first. Lower suspension arm looks bad. Okay, check on the cross member there. That looks okay. Click on the engine. We know we're pulling the engine anyway. We got rings. So just by pulling the engine, we're going to be inspecting most of those parts anyway. Radiator is all right. I think the other side exhaust looks bad. Yeah. That's just from my mind's eye there. I got some bad U-bolts and springage in the back there. Alright, back to examine mode. I didn't get that side. Okay. I think we have examined thoroughly what we can examine. Yep, okay. Normal mode. Clicky-clack that back. We could just... We haven't done this in the last get video. Let's just do the test path. I mean, that's... It'll give you a few more diagnostics. Well, we can't start it, so... That's right, bad starter. So we'll move it to the left, and we'll just go ahead and run through the car. So we're pulling the engine, we got to drain the oil, we got some suspension work and exhaust work. So if I pop it up, I know this, if I go to the examine mode, I think both rear mufflers they want replaced, right? Mid muffler. Both rear mufflers, okay. Let's pop those off. Let's deal with the exhaust real quick. Partially because it's pretty easy. We have to take these front pieces off anyway so that we can take the exhaust or the car out, engine out. Get the words out yet. Drive shaft, 4 bolts in front. 4 bolts in back. Okay, that's out. And move this over. Drain on the oil. While that's draining, I'll go to our inventory and purchase the exhaust pieces that we need. Move that back. Put on some of the exhaust. We'll not put on the front pieces yet. Alright. Let's drop her down out of the air. We'll grab the cherry picker. And let's pull the motor. Oh, I forgot to pull the trans. I dropped the drive shaft, I forgot to pull the transmission. Holy cow. That would have been smart. I thought we had. Actually, these other front exhaust pieces we probably gotta pull. Yep. Alright, pull the engine out. Let's go mount this up. Install engine on stand. And then we can slowly start to break this down. The rockers on this car are pretty cool because they're held on a bar and just 3 bolts. So instead of 8 individual bolts on the rocker, you just have that one bar of rockers you can pull, which I find pretty efficient. I believe pistons and the rings on this engine are not the standard ones. They're like the F or a letter to them. Those other rings we had bought in previous guide videos to have a supply probably won't be useful here, as I recall. As you play through the game and you get through more cars, you start to remember which car parts have more universal applications, which ones don't, and then kind of get a game plan in your head about which parts you're going to want to remove and which parts you're going to want to keep. If I look right here, yeah, they're the push rod overhead valve Fs. So they're not just the plain push rods that you use on 90% of the cars. It's this yellow-orange engine that has unique parts. Okay. And you'll get pretty savvy about clicking through parts here and figuring out which parts are the parts you have to remove, which part comes first. Getting the clip off here before you can take off the top of the distributor cap. Clutch release bearing, clutch pressure plate, clutch plate, and flywheel off so that we can get to the crank. Those crankshaft bearings look bad. You see the rust on these? Going to take off all the rod caps, then go back and pull the pistons. There we go. Grab pistons. Crank, camshaft, block. Okay. And popping over here, let's repair what we can repair. And are these parts all parts that needed to be repaired? Nope. Am I repairing them anyway? Yeah. Does this cost us a little money? Yeah, not a ton. You're still going to make profit. You definitely do not have to do this. This is just a choice I am role-playing to decide, even in a guide series, to do. And honestly, I think in the rebuild of a motor, if you're tearing it all the way down, why would you not? At least, you know, I consider this like taking a wire whirler to some metal and just knocking the rust off of it, right? There we go. So that parts that we could repair on the engine are repaired. I'm just going to go to the engine. I'm going to sort by condition, putting the crap at the top. It is plain piston rings, which I believe we should have enough. I thought they were special piston rings, so I'm just going to sell these. Spark plugs will need 8. Valve push rod Fs. Ignition wires. I can sell them as I go and add them. And the rest of this is all in the yellow. Okay, push rods, I'm going to replace them all. We had some bad ones. I'm just knowing how the mechanism in the game works. If you end up putting in the new push rod in the spot where there was a bad one, you're fine. If you put it in the 74 in the bad spot, it will just not give you credit for it. So I'm just replacing that. Same for spark plugs. I'm just going to replace all the plugs. We had some bad ones. I'm just going to replace all the plugs. So the 3 that were probably salvageable, I'm just going to get rid of. And then rings. Good, we have a pile of rings. Okay, so we then go into the shop. We did have to buy 3 more rod caps. Push rods, there's 2 per cylinder, so 16 of these F-type push rods. And I mean, seriously, this cost us 64 bucks to replace them all. You wouldn't be saving a huge pile of money by saving those 3 yellow spark plugs. Camshaft needs to be replaced. Serpentine belt. Then we'll just go to the electronics store. Get 8 plugs. 40 bucks for 8 plugs, really? That's not bad. And then the wires. Okay. Should have everything we need to reassemble this engine. And we had bought a bunch of crankshaft bearing caps. We repaired some, so that just adds to our inventory, but had a pile of them. And you can see now we got nice new rings. Pistons were in adequate shape. They're all, I think all the pistons were in 70 or above, close, high 60s or above. And they all have nice new rings on them. Put the nice rod caps on. And after the rod caps, we can top on the oil pan. Top Pop on the oil filter. Pop over here, get the flywheel. Oh, we got to replace that. Gearbox. Clutch plate, clutch pressure plate with 74, so that's fine. What was the original bearing? 70, put that one back on. Put in the new camshaft, camshaft gear, timing chain, and a timing cover. Then we can put the water pump back on. I'm gonna go ahead and rotate the engine here. Crankshaft pulley, water pump pulley, these arms on. Alternator, our steering pump. Then we can put on the belts. And a fan. Pop over to this side, we'll do this side head. Then we'll put in the push rods that are all replaced. And the rocker arms. Engine head cover. And exhaust manifold. Okay, swing around. Ignition coil. Distributor. Rotor. Cap. And then the clips. Clip. Clip. Alright, you grab the head. Get these new F-style push rods in. There we go. Rocker arm. Engine head cover. Exhaust manifold. Okay. Intake. Carbs. Got 3 2-barrel carbs. Air filter base, air filter, and the air filter cover. And we just got the plugs left and wires. Wires. Okay. I think, we can just double check, the engine is complete. So come over here, back of the engine mount, take off stand, and install the engine. Move the picker out of the way. Alright. Was there any fuses or anything else? No. It's all suspension work from here. So the engine compartment should be done. Pump this up in the air. We can finish up the exhaust now. Well, I don't remember which one had the decent pipe and the bad pipe. Okay. count. See if I did it right. Front exhaust section, good. That was the bad side. Yep. And let's get the rear suspension addressed. Let's do a quick brake inspection on this side. That looks fine. Right. Get the U-bolts and plate off. Grab that rubber bushing. I'm just assuming it's bad because that bushing is always bad. What was it? Condition-wise, yeah, it was a 7%. Get on a new spring plate. Actually, yeah. Realistically, that's spring plates are a reasonable one to have a bunch of. Same for U-bolts. I would just buy a pile of both. And that side, I think, is done. Let's look at this side. Mount the wheel. I'll just inspect these rear brakes. They look fine. You can look at the drive shaft axle there too while you're doing it. Is that shock bad? Sort my arrival. Did I not? Oh, I've got rings here. Oh, the shock's fine. Okay. We know this bar is bad from our test. That spring plate actually doesn't look too bad. Solid axle control arm. Put in a new bushing. Spring plate, which we could replace, or we could just throw on the old one. Throw on the old one. New U-bolts. And put the tire back on. And that's a rear suspension. Which means I'm going to go ahead and throw the trans back on. Put on the starter. And then the drive shaft. 4 in the front. 1, 2, 3, 4 in the back. Part and mount. Take this wheel off. That brake looks okay. I think that wheel bearing was bad, right? Yeah, that was bad wheel bearing on both sides. And the cap and the wheel bearing. Now let's go to part mount. put the wheel bearing back on, the nice new one. And we can put the original 74% cap on. Our unmount, pop off this shock and the lower suspension arm. Gotta take the connecting thing out there first. I'm gonna pop these off too because these rubber bushings look bad. Put these back on. New bushings. And the bottom one needs to be replaced. I'll just buy a half dozen of these to have on hand. And new bushings too. Shock-wise, we can probably put the original one back on. Yeah, it's a 73% shock. It's fine. And the link, I think, on this side was 73. So yeah, put the originals. Okay. Then put on the wheel on this side. I'll pop over here. Take this side off. Quick brake inspect. Looks okay. That looked bad. Okay. Start to unmount. This front spring looks bad. These bushings look bad. I'm going to replace the bushings here. How do the bushings look on the bottom? Same thing. See all that black crap? That's typically the game sign that the bushings are bad. Alright, let's put these back on with just bottom one 69 with new bushings. Okay, that shock was a 55 shock. I'm going to put a new shock on. Because I think that spring on the shock was bad. And I could just replace the spring and reassemble the shock, but I'm just putting a new shock on that we've already made. Place those bushings on the upper arm too. And I'm going to throw the wheel back on and then just cross our fingers that just by our inspection we did everything that needed to be done. Let's see. What are we missing? Oh, the wheel hub bearing on that side, and one part is undiscovered. Okay. Which we knew this bearing was bad on this side. We had just inspected that. Part mount. So going back into examine mode, there's only a few parts we have not looked at. The springs, one shock in the back. We didn't look at the tank, but we looked at the fuel pump. The brakes on the front we didn't address. And then there's rubber bushings in the cross member in the front that we haven't looked at. Every other part, honestly, has been examined. So where I would start looking for that one unidentified part, I would look at the rubber bushings in this cross member. We've seen it on how many story cars? There's one right there. See that? How crappy it looked. And sure enough, that's what we had to fix. Rubber bushing. Our status. Okay, so we have fixed everything on this car. Now we just got to throw some oil in her. And I think a wheel alignment. Oil's in. You can always pull the dipstick just to make sure we did it right. Yep. Check car status, just to align the wheels. Test path. Head over to our alignment tool. Move the arrows till the wheels are in the green. Wheels aligned. Job is done. 5590. Alright. We leveled again. I heard it anyway. But as you recall, we have all the skill points applied. There are some parts here we haven't purchased yet, which as you start to get, we'll discuss that in that last guide video as far as where I would expect to go after you finish the guide cars, or the story cars. So the next one is this Hinta Moon MK2, which is a Mitsubishi. That's where we'll pick up the next guide video. Lucas Isaac Parker, I hope this was helpful. We will see you in the next one.